Hi, everyone, and welcome to Foundry Virtual Events. Thank you again for tuning in today, and I hope everyone's doing well. Before we dive straight into the session, I wanted to share with you guys a couple of updates. First of all, my name is Joyce. I'm the Field Marketing Manager here at Foundry EMEA. I'm here with my colleague Juan Salazar, Senior Creative Product Manager at Foundry, and I've got Anaïs Torreblanca, Associate Product Manager here at Foundry. So welcome to the team. So as I said, just a couple of updates before we dive straight into the session with Juan and Anaïs. So we've got 23 on-demand webinars available now for you to view. For more information on where you can find them, you can go on to foundry.com/events. For any questions, feedback, or you'd like to participate in our virtual event series, you can send us an email on virtual.events@foundry.com. Upcoming schedule. So we've got a really fabulous webinar coming up, Nuke in the Cloud with AWS by Bernard Kimbacher from Hive VFX. So please do make sure you tune into that. And it will give you a dive into setting up Nuke with AWS itself as well. In addition to that, we have a lot more listings coming up. So do stay tuned and make sure you check out our websites for new listings as well. Keep up to date with us as well via our social media channels, and as well as joining our Insights Hub and our quarterly newsletter as well. So speaking of quarterly newsletter, we've got some great content available there, a couple of new articles as well. We've got some training material on Foundry Learn. We've got some workflow Wednesdays, and then some of our on-demand webinars available there as well. So definitely an area you need to check out. I'd also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our partners, Access VFX, Academy Software Foundation, ACM SIGGRAPH, and VES. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if you're not supporting them already, please make sure you do so. This is a very good way of networking within the community and also finding freelancer jobs or just staying in touch within the VFX industry. So make sure you support them as well. Lastly, I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of our speakers, studios, freelancers who have so far participated at Foundry Virtual Events. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your stories with us and with our audience as well. And we're very much looking forward to many more future speakers and studios joining us as well to share their stories as well. So thank you again for joining, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Juan.
All right, thank you, Joyce. Hello, everyone, and thank you first for spending this evening with us. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is, remember, we are hiring, and obviously the current climate is great to be able to help around. So we are looking for engineers, we are looking for QA engineers for the Nuke team. So if you're an artist or anything, look at that. We're also looking for product designers, and we're also looking for a product manager for the Nuke team. So we are growing the team, expanding the team. Please contact us. That is really cool stuff. If you want to help make Nuke even better, please get in contact with us. So the other part of today is we are on beta for 12.2. We will actually touch on this through today's webinar. So we are quite excited about that. But please go and test it. Hopefully some of you are already testing it. As well as if you're interested on be part of the beta program, please contact us as well, as we are looking for more beta testers. So with that, I think we should just jump into it. So shall we take it away?
Okay, so Anaïs and I are going to take you now through this project. I have actually shown this project before in other online webinars, especially related to editorial tools. So I want you guys to have this one to be able to relate to some of the other webinars that we have done before. So today we're going to take you through how to make the process easier, how to create projects, how to bring your footage, distribute it, and review it with your supervisor. So I'll be playing the online editor, and Anaïs is going to be playing the supervisor. So let's actually start with this. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how to start your projects. But normally, and in any other time that I have shown how to start a project in Nuke Studio, I have shown either starting from the panel where you can start a new project, you can open a project, but I'm thinking now to actually show you a little bit more advanced, and it's how to set up templates so you start your project. And what do I mean by that? So if I close this, I get a new pop-up. And this pop-up shows me presets that I can actually start my project on. I have created an advertising one, animation, episodic, and even the stock footage, which I'll show you later to what that is. So I'm going to show you how to create these templates. So I'm going to cancel this. That allows me to start a clean project. And I'm going to try and create a project the way I would like to work in my company, or the way I like to work in my different shows. So I normally start by having a folder where I'm going to put my sequences. Then I have normally another folder where I set up my footage. So, oh, actually, normally I have my reference here. So any artwork or anything, references that I have through the project that is going to help me for it. Then I actually start having my footage and so on and so forth. So I could go through this and create all of that. One of the things that I like as well, setting it up straight away, is kind of the folders that I want inside, or the colors of the folders. So for example, I can start having folders inside my sequences, because I normally have a folder for a story, which is the actual storyline or edit of my project. But then I have another project which is review, and normally I have a third project in there called deliverables. As you'll know, nowadays we have to, especially if you're doing like music videos or anything, advertising, things like that, you have to make thousands of deliverables and hundreds of deliverables. I like to have a different place to store my different ways of starting. Now, when I do this, it's not just the folders that I can have here. I can actually have things like setting up my color spaces. So even though I can set my color spaces on the preferences, I know that depending on the type of project, I'm going to be working with different settings. So this way I can save different type of settings for that, instead of having just my settings from the preferences. So for example, if this was my advertising stuff, I probably will be working maybe on Nuke defaults if it is a Rec 709 project, unless I'm actually working on a Rec 2020, then I'll be moving probably into ACES and start setting up ACES. So let's say this is going to be my ACES setup. Depending on how you want, you can actually set this up. So let's say that I'm going to use the default ACES 101, and I'm going to close that. The other thing that I like to do on these presets is having utility things that I can have in here. So for example, I'm going to create now a new folder, and this is going to be, normally it's my 05 or the last of my folders, which is normally around 05, 06, and this is going to be online editing tools or editing tools. And what I mean by that is I can actually have footage in here that I can import into my project. So what I can do is come in here, say import a file or anything. So I actually have files. So I normally have like black and white frames, I have color bars, I normally have, I could have a blank Nuke script. I can show you that, how to create that. So I normally have a few frames that are little bits and pieces that I like having in my project, ready for me to just drop things into the timeline. A good case of that is, imagine I would come into the node graph and I want to have a blank project, that Nuke script that I can put in the timeline very quickly to then jump into it. So let's import that. Okay, and now I have my kind of editorial tools that I like to have on my project. So now that I have that, let's actually change. I could change some of the colors of those folders to make my life easier or nicer. Some people like colors, some people like black and whites. You can go and do that. I can show you how to do the whole thing. And now to make it a template, all I have to do is save that file into my template folder. So all I have to do is go to my .nuke folder. So I'm going to go to .nuke, and inside, if you don't have a template folder, you have to create the template folder. And there you can save your project. So this time I'm going to save it as advertising, but I'm actually going to say this is a ACES project. So now I know that one is the one that I can use for my presets on ACES directly to start. So save that. Now I can close that. And now when it is asking me to start a new project, as you can see, as soon as I close the project using Command W or Control W in Windows and Linux, I get the template menu, and straight away I have my ACES. So I'm actually in this program, I'm not going to use ACES, I'm going to just use the advertising one. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to say no. And there you go. Here is my template, straight away ready for me. It is now an untitled project, as you can see, so it's a new project. It's not related to that ACES, so it's a read-only project that only sets up all my folders, and I'm ready to go. And as I said, I have all my utility tools that I wanted to have in here, and now I'm ready, right? So that is the first thing I wanted to show you, as how to start your projects in a much easier way. So now that we have our project set up, now what I want to do is to start the conform and onlining process of the project. I've shown this before, so I'm going to do it very, very quickly. For those that you don't know, I'm going to cover really just basics and just follow through. So I'm going to actually change my workspace. For those that are completely new to Nuke Studio, you have workspaces, which is the way of just the layout. So I'm literally just going to use my workspace, which is a nice workspace that I have, where I have my node graph, my timeline, my viewer at the top. I have my spreadsheet and my project bin in here, and that way I can just swap very, very quickly between everything that I'll be doing during this process. So the first thing I want to do is go into my sequences. I'm going to go to story, and I'm going to import the first thing, which is an EDL, XML, or AEF. I have my timeline with all my with my spreadsheet telling me exactly what is going on. Time warps that came in directly from the XML. I have soft effects that are transforms. So all I need to do is just match my media. So I'm going to go and say match media, and here we go. So 25 hours 27, which is not bad. So it has matched all my footage. I don't need the audio that didn't came through. That's fine. I can actually, there is set reference media, so I can have an offline. So straight quite quickly, I'm just going to put my offline. There you are. So now I have my offline for my show. And if I want to start just checking my online, you can see these are picture in picture. So to do picture in picture in the timeline, what we want is to simply set my track as blended. So now I'll be able to blend, and now I have my online straight up ready to go. Now I'm just gonna rename the shots, make sure that everything is nicely named, and I have based on the show and each shot. So I'm gonna call it city and shot, and then I'm gonna go and copy cuts from my plate track to my reference and my other two tracks. And that was a super quick online. I just wanted to show it to you very, very quickly because I have some more of the bits that I really want to go in depth. Okay, so now that we have online and everything is good, and I have renamed my shots, as I said, I renamed them with the name of the show and shot and the shot number. Now, what I want to show you now is the distribution and exporting this to the rest of the team that is going to start doing this job. So I need to export my plates separately. I need to have my screens with the comps that I'm going to do for that. But I also have to send out the animation reference from the dancer that is going to be replaced with a robot on the final scene. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my export structures. So export structures are a way of distributing or creating either doing transcodes or creating Nuke scripts based on rules. So we have ways of doing this for whole sequences when we export, or per shot when we are distributing through the pipeline. The first part is on this side is kind of the defaults on the export structures that allows you to do, for example, simple transcode to DPXs, where I can decide to name the folder based on the name of the shot, and then do a transcode to a file that's, again, with the name of the shot, padding, and an extension. And if I select that, I'm able to get a transcode images and define what's going to be the type of file that I want to create. On the transcodes, I can define which tracks do I want to export, and I can define the cut length, and if I want to include handles and apply retimes or not apply the retimes, and what's going to be the start frame for my shot. Is it going to be based on the source of the original clip, or if I want to do it in custom, as normally is happening in pipelines, to 1001. So that is kind of the basics of how you can do the exports. Now, you also have exports or presets per show. So the way I like to explain this is normally on this side, you want to have the way the company tries to work most of the time. But every show has its own differences and tasks and different things that you want to add to it. So I normally grab from here and drag it into the per project exports. And in here, I have already created some. So if I'm going to go into the animation reference that I was talking about, I want to export that to my animation department based on the name of the shot, animation references, and then I'm going to transcode this in a low-res file that they just need to have as a reference, or it could be the same EXRs, it depends on the pipeline. But I also want to export the audio cut per shot. So I'm adding the audio export in here as well, which now allows as well to export PCM WAVs, and I can pick my sample rate and bit rate that I want to do for it. Including if you were doing something more complex, you could even have a 5.1 and a 7.1 if you wanted to. Now, what I really wanted to show you here is I want to do a little bit more of an advanced export. And that is related to the keywords that I can use to make the name of the shots or the name of the folders. By default, we can actually add a bunch of different keywords that we have. This can be extendable through Python. These are the defaults that come in, but you can actually add a lot more if you wanted to. Things like resolution and different things like that. Now, still, there is something else that I can do. So I actually name my shots with the name of the show and the shot and the number. In some cases, if this was a episodic show or something bigger, you're going to have different scenes or sequences within that. So normally you have the naming of the shots with the sequence name, then the shot name, and then the number, or a combination of the three. So what happens if I have that? I don't want all my folders to be whole name of the sequence and everything else. I actually want to have a folder for the sequence, then a folder for the shot, and then the animation stuff and the 2D stuff as well inside. So instead of just using shot, I'm actually going to tell Nuke Studio to do the export, pick certain characters of the name of the clips. So to do that, I can actually add a few more things into that naming convention. So what I'm going to say here is first I want the name of the show, or the sequence. So what I actually want is the first 3 digits or the first 4 digits of that naming. So to do that, so to use the first characters of the string, I'm just going to use close bracket, square bracket, and a colon, and I'm going to say 3, actually in this time is 4, is the first 4 digits that I want, and colon, and then my square bracket again, and that will pick the first 4 digits of my name, of the name of the shot. Then inside of that, I'm going to create another folder, this time with, again, name of the shot, so shot, but this time I want only the number of the shot. So, or it could include the SH if you wanted to, but I want to use just the last characters or a certain amount of characters. So I'm going to say minus, this time, sorry, square bracket, minus, and what I want is the last 4 digits, so it's the number of the shot, and then colon, and then square bracket again, and close my curly brackets, and that's it. So you can very easily grab that. I'm gonna just put this inside this folder, so now I have first 4 digits, and then last 4 digits, and then the animation reference inside, and the same thing. And that way, when I do this export, it's going to create those folders directly on wherever that project is. So in this case, I have a strict path, but this could actually be set, as you can see on the CD and the create comp, based on the project directly. So actually, I'm going to change this one to be based on the project. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to set this here. Cool. And now I could sit down and do this export. I'm not gonna do it obviously with you guys here and sit down and watch a whole export, but I'm gonna do the export so I can show you the folders or how it goes. So as you can see, it has created the folder city, and then because they all had the same name, if it would have been different sequences, we would have found each sequence here. And then now we have the actual shot inside with the reference, and now we have the actual clip that was exported as JPEGs with the audio files and everything there. So now, if I go back to Studio, then while we wait for the animation guys to work on that, I'm gonna do a bit of work on a bit of look dev before my supervisors actually comes in, so I can actually show a little bit of what some of the bits and pieces look like on the actual show. So the first part of that is the graphics department have been working on some reference that we're going to do for kind of the screens. I know the screens are going to be replaced with kind of some type of holograms type of thing. So for that, what I'm going to do is into my reference, I'm going to import some artwork. Actually, let's do it into my elements, because these actual elements I'm going to use, or that any artist can use in their comp. So I'm going to go and import folder, and I'm going to go into artwork and open, and I want any type of files, and there you go. So now I have all the artwork that the graphic guys have been doing, so we can check it here quite quickly and see what stuff they did. And see any of the screens. Let's check any of the other ones. There you are. So that's the one with the kit. So a few motion graphics bits and pieces that have been done for me, right? So there you are. So for the different type of things that are going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a comp to do kind of the look dev with this. So I'm going to take this shot, and I can either use the effects menu here or the context menu under the shot, and I can do create comp special, create comp. Create comp special takes me into the export panel in case I want to pick a different export structure. Well, if I do create comp, it takes a default export structure that I have defined in my project settings. In my case, as I said before, I have already defined on my project settings to be my CD create comp export structure. So what I'm going to do is come in here and say create comp special. No, sorry, I did create comp special. So I'm going to use the CD create comp, and as I said before, I have the same setup that I did for my animation one beforehand, and I'm going to do create comp. And as you can see now, I have a comp container with my track called comp, and my comp container has created as well a folder with my Nuke script and what I'm going to render directly for me. If we check the folders again, what I get is under my shot, this is shot 50, I get my Nuke, and I get my annotations, in case I have sent annotations to an artist, render folder, and where the script lives. And again, with the whole name of the shot, while the actual folder structure is based on the name that I put on that. So with that said, all I have to do is just double click that. And now I have it here on my node graph. And as you can see, it hasn't only brought in my plate, it also brought my reference. If I would have had any soft effects on that clip, it would have brought the soft effects, and as well it has my render, and it has my annotations pre-comp. Now, since I'm in Nuke Studio, all I need to do with my artwork is to start dragging any of the elements I want to add in here to start doing that comp. So very easily, let's start with div sequence. Let's grab that. So I can drag it. Now I have it here in my node graph, and all I need to do is just grab that, and start merging, right? And all I need here is probably a corner pin for now. I'm gonna do this very quickly, and just kind of, let's find where that is. Could have done this on a 3D system or something nicer, but I know for now it's very quick. So it's just to show you guys kind of a little bit of comping, nothing super fancy, but I can just kind of do something like that and put that on my screen, right? Obviously I can make that screen on my merge, and start playing around with the look of what that's going to be. Now, I mentioned to you before that one of my preset templates that I was making is for the stock footage. So that is one thing that I find super useful when I'm in studio comping, is instead of having to leave the app and have to go somewhere else to find some stock footage and start checking the files that I want to bring in into my comps, I can very easily go into my project, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to do File, New Project, and my templates come up. And one of my templates is a stock footage. And as I said, when you save a template, it can contain footage. And as long as that footage is accessible to anyone on the team from either on the central server, on a central location for the whole team, all I have to do is say, okay, that opens a new project, so I don't have to contaminate my whole project as I had it here. Now I have here, obviously with the great guys from Action Effects, I have a bunch of different stock footage and stock things that I want to use in here. So I have kind of the spell hits that are quite nice. I can preview how much, what is the one I want. So something like that. That sounds good, actually. So all I'm going to do is just grab that spell hit, which I think was on. Should have actually checked which one I clicked. And I can drag and drop it again into my comp, and I straight away have it here. One of the other things that I have is, obviously in the timeline it's a lot easier to match certain things, but if I'm on the node graph, I can go into the dot sheet, and one of the things I can do is click this button down here that allows me to see all the reads that exist on that timeline. So very quickly I can see where my things are and start defining where my shot is. So obviously if I zoom in here, I'll be able to find there. So now I can see that my screen is not in the right place, so obviously my shot is here at 1001. So I can just grab that, and my screen now is going to be in the right timings, and I can see my 1001. And here is my dust hit, so I can put it down there. And now everything is on the right timings, and I can start just merging that into my comp. And I don't know, let's put that as screen as well, and just start playing with this a little bit. And one of the nice things about the dope sheet, obviously, is that is if I just frame that, there you are, that makes my life easier. I can obviously trim from here, so the same as if it was on the timeline in a way. I can just very quickly kind of edit and do some editorial work to those clips. So I can you can see how that's changing. I'm going to just put a transform to this guy probably, because I haven't seen where it is. Just kind of grab that to somewhere there. I thought she's just going out. So if I put my playhead somewhere, I can actually try and find that does hit as it's happening. Maybe I shouldn't have put it on the screen yet. But you get the idea. So I could actually just go and start playing around and getting the look that I want for my shot, so I can actually show my supervisor or anyone, or I can even render directly into the timeline, and that's how you have comps in the timeline very, very quickly. Okay, so now that we have done comping, we have done distribution, now let's bring the footage back from the CG guys. So then we can do some review of the shots and then go into comping. So what I want to do is, by using the same export structures that we used to export, we can use them to import things, even though they're not coming from Nuke or from Nuke Studio. They can come from any other package or any other part of the pipeline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my clips and I'm going to say build track from export structure. This allows me to come and pick a track that I want to bring that in. This is going to be the robot, and I'm going to pick an export structure for that is coming from. So I'm going to use CG shots, and they're coming from the shot name, the renders, and again the name of the actual file. Those are EXRs, and they're coming from an external render. So I'm going to use that to build this track. So I'm going to say build, and it's going to go and find all those shots for me, so I don't have to do any manual work by importing the independent files and then drop them into the timeline. And straight away, as you can see, there is some that have red areas, which is either they don't exist yet or they haven't been rendered completely. So let's actually do a little bit of checking on that. So now we have all the renders. We also have all the passes that are coming with those renders, so I can actually check all the passes. So I'm going to do that with my supervisor in a moment. So I'm going to call Anaïs in a moment to come in and work with me on the review. But before that, I want to make sure we have the right shots. So first thing is, because they're supposed to be comped, so all I want to do is actually blend that track with the items below. I can straight away see my snap comp. So let's actually zoom in. I can come in here, do a little bit of play, so I can see how that is working. Great. Let's see which ones are red. So on this one we have a single frame of it, and I think the reason is because the robot is not moving. I think the decision from the supervisor is that this is supposed to be a single frame. So I'll do that. I will actually just find that shot in my project bin. So there you are. It finds it as the first shot. And what I can do here is very simply is actually replace it. So I'm gonna delete that clip, and let's actually just go into my first frame, and I'm gonna insert that in here. Yes, okay. And I'm gonna zoom in and just gonna go and extend that to make sure it matches my shot underneath. So cool. We have the single frame that is gonna go in that. Obviously we'll need to track it, but that's something you can do in the comp. It's not a problem. That's what you call efficiency when you're doing commercials. You need to do things quickly. Okay, let's look at the next one. So this one is actually part of the shot, and what we can see is that the robot actually comes in later. So one of the things I can actually do in here is reposition it the same as I have with the screen. So we can maybe try and use and copy and paste the transform from the plate to the shot and see, oh look, that practically matches what I want. There you are. That's great. So now we have him walking in the background in the whole thing. We probably need to crop it to that section. So actually, if we use the crop as well from here, let's see what happens. Almost. It didn't fit completely, so obviously because I'm doing the set of operations in a different moment, so I can definitely come and fix that to be in the right place. Probably one of the things I could do is just swap the order of the transforms, and there you are. That's exactly what I need. So it's now cropped to the right place, it's moved to the right position, and that is great. Now we have that element, and it's the right position. Probably what we want is for him to walk until the end. So this probably what needs is to be slipped to the end of the shot, and all I need is to actually kind of online that, and that's the element that goes, and that's now in the right placement for that. The next one, okay, there is no robot on this shot, therefore that's why I don't need that shot. And the last one here, again, it's just him, so it's not needed for that shot. Cool. So now that I have everything, I could call my supervisor and say, cool, we can review this in context of the edit and start looking at the shots and find if that's exactly what we want. We can actually see the comparison between the robot and the animation reference that we got very easily and check if that actually matches. We can see how that matches, he walks through it, and so on, right? But there is something else. I told you when I do reviews, I like to have a sequence that is different from my review session. The reason why is because that way I can actually have a place where I can play with my supervisor, put everything for the dailies instead of reviewing necessarily in context without going completely out. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to show you another way of importing the files. So I did it with the export structures, which is file-based, but you could be connected to a database. You could be connected to Shotgun, or to F-Track, or to Meme, or you could have literally a spreadsheet where you actually know where the data is and where the stuff is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to call for today's dailies for those shots. So what I'm going to use my shot manager example here to import those shots. So I'm going to say import from spreadsheet. So by using the import from spreadsheet, what it has done is it has created a new sequence with the date of that the sequence was created or the playlist was assigned, and it has brought into that timeline all the shots in order for us to review. Not only it has done that, but it has also, as you can see, assigned colors to the shots, and that is based on the status. So that could be obviously based on your statuses in Shotgun or F-Track, but it has also added tagging to it. And the reason why that is very useful is because it will become quite easy once we are in the review session to start looking for specific shots. Obviously in this show we have only a handful of shots, but we know that in an episodic show or anything like that you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of shots which you're working on. So the nice thing is to be able to jump and find things. You can use the tagging system, which is the way that we add metadata to shots. You can add them to the track, or you can add them directly to the clip. In this case, as you can see, that you cannot see any tags on the timeline, and the reason is because I have added them to the specific clip. So I can actually apply different tagging when a shot is in progress or is awaiting approval to when it's final in a different version. If I do that on the track items, the tagging is directly to that track item. So then when you change a version, it doesn't change the tagging of that given shot. So in this case, and we'll do this with Anaïs once we start the session, but quite quickly, if I want to check which ones are my shots in progress, I can grab the in progress, search on my spreadsheet, and you can see how now I have only the shots, and I can start doing alt and click, and I can start jumping between the shots. So we'll use some of these once we are with Anaïs ready to review. So I'm going to clear that out, and now if I go back to my timeline, you can see my timeline as well has been has the linking, the colors attached to them. So it will be very easy for us to jump between the shots and find them in either of the two timelines and mark them as well. The last thing I want to do before we start the session with Anaïs is I'm gonna unlink these shots. And what do I mean by that? There is something called version linking, and version linking allows me to update all the versions of that shot in all other given timelines. I'll explain a little bit more of this after the review session, but before the review session I want to unlink these ones because they are my review timeline, so I want to be able to play around and change the versions of this without affecting any of my other timelines. In this case, you can see how I have now a broken link as an icon, meaning that those shots have been unlinked. And on the project bins, you can see how those items now have a link with a line in the middle. That means that those clips have track items or clips in different timelines with different statuses of the linking, of the version linking. So we are doing a mix thing. On some timelines they are linked, and in this timeline they're unlinked. I'll explain a little bit more once we finish the session, so I can show you how we use version linking to update to the rest of the shots. So since I'm about to call Anaïs on the Zoom, obviously because we cannot be on the same suite, or I'll normally would have done a different workflow. When we talk about review sessions with Hiero, Nuke Studio, and Hiero Player, we always talk about saving the project and someone else opening that project on Hiero or in Hiero Player somewhere else, and having a look through it, adding annotations, and then all of us can access the same file, but we are not doing it at the same time. One of the things that we've been working on and that we want to show you today is the beta of Sync Review. And so the first thing I'm going to do is go into my workspace and change my workspace to this new workspace called Sync Session, and it's on beta. So I'm going to click on that, and as you can see, now I have my new workspace with a new panel here on the left called Sync Session. What these allow me to do is to connect 2 or more sessions of Nuke Studio, Hiero, and Hiero Player, and being able to review in context at the same time between all the participants. For this, the 2 main things is you have to be able to connect through IP address or host address of the machines, and you have to have access to the footage either by a centralized network or have them localized in each machine with a path remapping. So I'm going to be the host of the session, so Anaïs can connect. So I'm going to start by hosting my session, and this allows me to pick my name, pick a color for my cursor that is going to be displayed on the viewer of everyone else's that connect to the session. I'm going to pick how I want them to connect, either by the host name of the machine or by IP address, especially nowadays with the situation. If you're on a VPN, you want to have the correct VPN address that is used for that, and a port number. And the next thing is I probably want to copy the information so I can send it to Anaïs or any other participant. So I'm going to copy the information of my connection, and I'm going to start my session. And as you can see now is myself again now on the panel. It says that I'm the host, and down here the connection status is listening, and it tells me clients connected are 0. So now I'm ready to get Anaïs in the session.
Cool. As you can see, Anaïs is connecting because the progress bar is showing me that she's connecting. Anaïs is now on my panel. And hello, Anaïs. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Cool. I'm good. So are you ready for this review session?
Yes. Let's check this out.
Cool. So I can see your mouse on the viewer. Can you see my mouse on the viewer just to make sure?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Cool. So let's have a quick run through the shots. So I'm going to press play to make sure that you're on sync and you can see the shots. Yeah. The guys have done a good job with the animation. It's a good first pass.
Yes, they are. Let me take a few shows that are on waiting for approval. I think that I saw a couple of things.
Cool. So as you can see, the playback is syncing between the two, or mouses can be seen on the viewer when any of the two of us are on the viewer. If the playhead moves, she moved. But she probably just did a search on the spreadsheet and using the tagging, using the different statuses to do the review and find the shots that she wants to review. I don't have to see that. So those parts are not in sync because she's just doing that side to her. So what is going on with this shot, Anaïs?
It looks slightly burned on these areas.
Cool.
Let's see.
Do you want to check if the... Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. So it's not. I think the coppers can play around with that.
Yeah,
they
I
can
think
actually just do some glows on nice. Yeah.
They'll be able to manage.
That's the game and Gamma kind of working for the two of us in the session. And let's continue having a look.
Let's see this one.
Yeah, that's a nice jump.
Yeah. That looks okay for me. You can put it on approved if you want to.
Yeah, cool, no problem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna now set the color for that. And if I want to, I can even approve the actual clip. So I'm gonna tag the clip again, not the track, because that allows me to tag the actual version that is inside that track item.
Do we have any new versions of this shot? I think there was like some new renders.
Yeah, I think there is. So if we actually check the versions, yeah, so that is that one. This one. So that's the previous one, and that's the new one.
Okay. Could we take a look at the new one and compare it with the reference?
Yeah, sure. Let me actually take you to the actual edit so you can have a look at that one. So I'm back here on my actual edit. Do you want to look at it compared to the animation reference, I imagine, first?
Yes, please.
Cool. So let's just set my reference in 2 and my viewer in 1. So do you want to see it one on top of another? Or do you want to see it side by side?
Let's go side by side for now.
All right. So let's have a look first side by side. Oops, sorry, I have the sound there. So we could hear the whole thing. We both have it on. But now we can see how that is running. Do you want to see it on the slab comp on the left so we have a little bit of context with the background?
Yes, please. Yeah, that would be great.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the background 2 and I'm going to assign it to my viewer 1. So let's have a look at that. If you want, you can go full screen on your side, and I can drive the timeline if you feel like.
Yeah, I think that's looking nice.
Yeah, cool. Actually, I just realized that we are looking at the wrong version of that. Let me actually just swap the version, because since I unlinked the versions between the two sites, that's why I have the two things. But so if you prefer, here is the other version in context. Yeah. So obviously, we are recording and doing everything at the same time, so the playback sometimes will have a bit of a run, but you can see the actual shot there. Cool. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, yes, I am. Do you want to go through the shots? I'm still on full screen.
Yep. So I'm gonna go into the review. Then I'm just gonna prove that quick shot very quickly just to make sure that I remember that. There you are. That's approved. So how about let's play that. Change the next shot. Let's actually move to the next one. That looked good. About that. What do you feel about this?
I'm not too sure about that position when he is like sitting on his knee. Can we check that as well in our reference?
Yeah, sure. So let's have a look at that one again. So I think I'm gonna come here. Start. So we have it already set up so we can actually see it. So yeah, you do you want that on bounce maybe?
There, yeah. Let me take a couple of annotations. There.
Yeah, sure.
He just feels like he's like way too high, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I think that he should be lower, probably around here. So I think
cool.
The animation team would probably have to work a little bit on that one.
Cool, no problem. I'll make sure that gets done. And obviously, we could invite them into the session if we wanted to have a bigger conversation with the animation team. There is no limit as they can access the footage. At this point, it's just the two of us, but we could very easily call someone else to join the call and start looking in Hiero or Hiero Player and look at what we have been doing during the session. So we could bring any of the other teams to the conversation. Cool. So definitely that's actually, I'm gonna go back in here and let me just mark that as red, just to make sure that that's not going in as good shot actually, so that it needs to probably unapproved, not in a good shot. So let's actually tag the clip again. Cool, awesome. Cool. Anything else you want to have a look at it today, Anaïs?
No, I think that everything looks fine at the moment.
Yeah, cool. So then I won't take more of your time. You're a supervisor, you're running 100 things at a time. So I'm just gonna make sure that this is updated on the database for everyone and all the other timelines for the job are ready for the rest of the day, and I'll create the comps for the comp guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll disconnect now.
Cool. See you later.
See ya.
So as you can see now that Anaïs have disconnected, what we have is Anaïs has gone offline. I'm still hosting the session. I still have my project. As I said before, I had these clips on linked. So now that I have gone through the session and I want to update this into all my other timelines, I can select them, right click, version linking, link, using the track items, because I want to use these track items. I could be using the ones from the bin, but I actually want to use the track items. And what is going to happen now is if I go to my other timeline or to the bin, all my items here have updated the colors, they have updated to the versions that were approved for the session. And now I can either publish this to the database, or in my case, I'm actually going to start making the comps, and I'll take you through that as well. So that is the new sync session beta feature that we have in Nuke Studio 12.2, and hopefully you're running that beta. Is out in open beta at the moment. The version that is on open beta is a little bit less functionality, but we'll be putting more of these betas out so you can play with it and let us know what you think. So cool. I'm gonna move to the next part.
Now that we have gone through the whole thing, the last thing I want to show you is how to conform to your Nuke scripts, and that's very useful, especially nowadays that we have to do so many deliverables, and if you have multiple versions of an edit and you want to keep them on sync and do the final deliveries of obviously those versions. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to import an EDL that arrived from editorial. That is a new version of the edit. It's a 20-second version this time. It's a very simple one, but you can imagine there's been multiple things. So when I import this, right, just match your same edit. I'm going to bring the clips. There you are. That's my new edit that arrived from editorial. And all I'm going to do is, instead of conforming it to the original plates, I'm going to take my comp folder where I have all my comps, and I'm going to drag and drop it into the match media. So I'm going to put NK as my include patterns, and with that I'm going to say OK. And yeah, so the nice thing about this is, as you can see, it straight away shows you what kind of it conform, and if there is any shots or anything that is not the same as your footage that you had on the rest of your project, you can straight away find those shots either from any selects that were sent to you or from the original footage and find which ones are the shots that are not conforming. So very easy way to actually match, and again, because of version linking, once you have this version set, if I swap this to a different version, that will be the same on the original version. So if I actually change, say I think on this one I have more versions of it. So for example, I have version 3 here. If I change that to version 3, when I go into my serial, my actual 30-second, you can see how that also changed to version 3. So that is how you keep your deliverables and your different sequences on sync by using version syncing, version linking, and that is it. So with not much more, and after going through all the process, I think we are ready for some Q&A, because you guys, I imagine, will have some questions. So there you are. Hope you have enjoyed it.
Cool. So thank you, everyone, for going through all that. Anaïs, thank you for all the help. That was brilliant.
Sure.
So we have some questions, isn't it? There's quite a few questions to go around.
Okay. I can start with this one, by example.
Good. Yeah.
Yep. So the footage actually needs to be available for all the participants, either locally or through a central server. Otherwise, they will just see offline.
Yeah. So you can do kind of two things. One, obviously the central network. The other one is if you are sharing with different ones. The example in this case is Anaïs had her own drive and I had my own drive with an image of the whole footage. It could be as well using the path remappings inside Nuke. So you can use the path remappings if they are not the exact same paths for both sides. So you can actually get all the connections sorted. Cool. I'm gonna start with one that got asked at the beginning. So talking about a little bit about the Studio Nuke X, happy both CPU and drive speeds. So the best part is obviously what you really need in hardware is fast drives is the main things, where you can cache or a fast connection to central storage to make sure you have the footage, and RAM. Really, that's the two main things that you want to do. Sometimes it's better to have for Nuke Studio, if you're doing playback, the multi-core is good because you can actually use the different cores to do the decoding of the files. For Nuke X, it's actually better at higher clock than the amount of cores. So just that, and check the website. We have all the kind of the specs, machines, and so on in there. What's that? What should we grab next? Anaïs, do you on or sorry, go. All right.
You can choose.
Cool. So there's this one is when you create the comp, is it already referencing the media within the container? So what's the naming convention would you use on the original element? So the original clip, you can define when you do the create comp or you do the exports to define if you want to use the frame numbers, or even if it is time code, convert the time code to frame numbers, or you can define it as a custom frame. So it will maintain the original time code, but it will put the script with the frame numbers that you want to use. So that's what I use on the custom frame numbers, and I use the 1001 for that to actually match to that script in the moment that I create the comps. So it could be from the raw footage. It doesn't need to be a transcode file from the beginning. Yeah. What else do we have around here? Do you want to take the buffering one? I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
You take that one. I'll take the next one. I was already preparing the answer for the next one. Sorry.
No. So this one. So on the buffering, it actually, if it feels like it's going out of sync, it will actually stop the playheads to whatever it is. If you saw on the video, there's a moment it actually goes a little bit of sync, but it maintains it because it knows that I can actually catch up with where it was. I was recording on my machine, so if you could hear, and I apologize for the massive amount of noise on the recording, but my laptop wanted to fly away, so the fans were going a bit mental. So that's literally what was happening. So it actually can either stop or keep going and make sure that it catches up to the frame. So most of the time you won't be able to be out of sync on the playhead.
Okay. So I was thinking about answering this one. About the viewer. So not only the viewer is linked, but there are a few other functionalities that are linked, and many of them that are not linked yet. This is why we are releasing it as a beta feature. So, by example, there are certain things that are not linked automatically, but you can do it by doing an action like force an update, doing a push. So, if, by example, if I create a soft effect, that will not be synced automatically, but if I push it, if I force an update, then the other participants would be able to see it as well. So,
but so you have some of the viewer options will update automatically, as Anaïs is saying. The same with the soft effects. So the parameters, we're looking at updating the parameters live, but the creation of the soft effect is not live. So there are some actions or editorial examples. So if you do trimming or add a clip into the timeline, those actions need a push to update everyone else's timeline. Remember that this time we did it between the two of us, but you could have multiple people in that session. So you want to maintain everyone in sync, depending on what the footage is. All right. Cool. What else was that? I'm going to answer this thinking that I know what it means. How do I answer this? There. So this is essentially a C mode assembly. I imagine you're referring to when I did the shot manager import. So that is using the API connected to a database. Again, in this case, was our own example that uses a literal spreadsheet that has fields, and with that you can assemble based on that. So that one is for kind of bigger pipelines to be able to automate from building from anywhere that they have the data to create those timelines. And next, what else do we have? Is there anything that we haven't replied yet? Right. What's that? Is it possible to make some guides from asking for review without using Python? No, it's quite one of those requests that's been for a while. That's actually a good one. We are actually working quite a few improvements to UX and UI. So that's actually just got a big bump on the list. So yeah. And also I think someone, it was on the previous one that they were asking about the guides on the viewer. Those will update on sync. But yeah, we'll look at creating the images, the guides without Python. All right. Do we have anything else that we haven't answered?
Not at the moment.
At the moment.
So we give it a couple of seconds. Let's see if someone wants to ask anything else.
I think there's a question on the chat. Thank you, everyone. But the name tokens where you can adjust the length section of the shot names, are there any more of those documented? Looks useful. Yeah, so on the documentation there is quite a few information about this, how you can actually use the characters, how you can create new tokens as well. it's also in the Python examples. You can find ways of adding other tokens to the export structure. So we can post a link to the documentation probably. If Jesse's hearing me around, it'll be great. And cool. So the last one comes from masking in the timeline. Yes, so there is ways of doing it at the moment. I can actually share with you later. There is Blink scripts that allows you to do masking in certain areas and do things like that with basic masking. But we are really looking into that to start adding more functionality without having to do a create comp. I do a lot of those in sessions, as the example as we run with Anaïs, where I actually just do a very quick create comp. And because of using the frame server, you ended up rendering super quick, especially if you're just doing quick masking. And that way I can also track it within the node graph. All right, if you have any other questions, this is the time. And if you post it on the question side, it will be a lot easier. So everyone can see what the question is. Okay. What we did in this session, everything is possible in Hiero, except for the comp part that I did at the beginning when I did the look there of the screen comping. Everything else is in both. And yeah, right. Amazing. Cool. And
there is a link to the documentation just about what we were talking about in the chat.
Thank you, Jesse. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, I think that's it. Anaïs, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And thank you to 1920, if I forget. Thank you very much for the footage. You guys are amazing. Go and check their website. This is obviously an old project that they have shared with us a long time. Check their latest work. It's incredible. Ludo and Chris, you guys are amazing. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Bye. Have a good evening.